Yeah. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Today is a special day. It is not the 12 Rounds podcast. It is 12 Scaredy Cats, because my guests today are the Scaredy Cats. What is up, yo?
That intro song had me hyped up. It got me hyped up.
Yeah. Me and Heath Homerson were like, hey! One time, because it sounds like the sports song
like
or whatever.
the beginnings.
That's cool. Like the walk-in songs.
Yeah.
Honestly, thank you though for letting us be on this episode with you. We're super excited, and I'm pumped to be here.
Same.
Yeah, no, I knew this was going to be a cool one too, because just the what do you call it? The fusion of what we got going on here.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome, because there's been a couple episodes where I've kind of wanted to go into like where you guys are with your podcast on this one, especially because I had a guest named Israel Salinas that went into some deep stuff and with the supernatural and whatnot. And I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool to go into like one of those episodes where we can like talk about all that, because it's I think a lot of people are scared to talk about that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Like bring that energy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say it carries like that.
Yeah.
That creepy energy.
Yeah.
Or
it's intriguing though too. Yeah. At the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people, either they don't believe it or they've never had any sort of experience with it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's real, and I think that's the biggest thing with me, is that how real it is. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah, man. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming on. Today has been a heck of a day for us here at the studio, and it's been one of those humbling moments where or me anyways, had to like zone in to make sure everything is all good. But I know you guys know about that, because you guys been doing your thing for a minute.
Yes.
Let's talk about like you guys' like humble beginnings, like from the very first time that you guys decided you guys wanted to do like influencing or whatever.
Yeah. So it all started honestly during the pandemic. So it was kind of like when everybody was, at home and stuff like that. And unfortunately, Sway ended up losing his job, during the pandemic. And that was the moment where we were kind of like, okay, we're dropping everything and we're just going to do it, because like this is a dream that he's had. We started off as best friends in middle school, and in high school, he's always talked about YouTube and stuff. So honestly, that moment was so difficult, but it was also a blessing in disguise, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have had this opportunity to just like push ourselves to be where we are now. So
Awesome.
I've always been like kind of like a creative person since I was a young kid, whether it be with art or like I taught myself I didn't tag anything, but I taught myself how to do graffiti on like on like scratch paper. And at school I would
notebooks.
I do like people's names. They would ask me to do their name in graffiti, and I do like cool styles. So I ventured into like editing pictures. So I would edit my pictures in high school, and then I would edit some of my friends. And then later in the years I started getting into like wanting to do video, and I just liked like the visual, like how like good it looked, how you can play around with the colors and like make it your own. And since I was 12, I've wanted to like be a YouTuber, like be an influencer or creator, like whatever you want to call it. And I was just always scared of what people would think, like because I went to school, I'm like, what if they find me, they're gonna make fun of me and stuff like that. I'm gonna feel nervous. And I honestly didn't start anything until the pandemic, and like on my 18th birthday, Lisette bought me a camera, and I was like super stoked to use it. And then I started like getting in my head again, like what are people gonna think? So I never picked up that camera until like that following like 2 years, when during the pandemic everything was like hitting hard at our work, and I work with my dad too, and he's been in that company for a while, and I was working for that company for like 3 years, like nonstop. I didn't get no vacations or nothing. Like we were just very hard working, and then having my dad there was like, it made it easier, it made it fun. And they ended up getting a new management, and then just dropped us during the pandemic, right when people didn't want to hire new people just in case they closed down and got their staff sick. So it was hard.
Or we ran out of toilet paper.
Toilet paper, water, everything. It was crazy during that time. And like my job, I used to like stock the shelves full of bread at the grocery store. So I was like in there, and we weren't getting like the proper equipment all the time. So it was just hard. And then for us to like be let go during the pandemic when people weren't wanting to hire, it was just super hard. And my dad couldn't find a job, and then I was trying to find a job too, but he then ended up wanting to make his own like bakery. And then so we went into that, and around that same time is when Lisette's all like, maybe this is your sign to like start YouTube.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe it is. So then with my savings that I had, I bought a camera, and then my dad helped me like pay half of the MacBook that I got, so then I can do like on iMovie and everything.
Yeah.
And it just went on from there. We started making videos, and then at first we were shy, but then now like 3 years into it, we do our own thing, and it's just super cool. And it's definitely like I've been in like a lot of jobs, and probably content creating and doing all this has to be like the most challenging one.
Yeah.
Like mentally, and just like, you just having to put that dedication into that work, even if you don't see the numbers. Like sometimes we'll like stress ourselves out to like look for a topic to do, and then I edit it, and it takes probably like 7 hours or a day, and then it only gets like 10 views, and then it just kind of like discourages you. But it's like probably like one of the toughest jobs that I've had.
That's one thing too, is that people don't see like that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Is the how much time it takes, and we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Along with the dedication to do it.
Yeah.
And that healthy balance between like your regular life and work, because as a visual artist, and I was going to say this earlier because I'm kind of the same way. I first was a visual artist, and I think that's how come we're attached to something that's still visual like that, and how this platform kind of like reaches out to us as visual artists. But to find that healthy balance between, work and creating content and, regular life and work or whatever it is that you're doing, because this can really consume you 24/7.
Yeah.
Like creating content can consume you 24/7, especially when you're worried about the numbers and you're worried about, and you're
being
like
consistent.
and being consistent. And like the biggest one is like, trying to give the audience what they want. You know what I'm saying? And you guys went from creating like YouTube videos. One of the ones that I cracked up on the most was when Liz said that she accidentally erased all the YouTube.
Yeah.
And you're like, we had so many views.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah. The panic that like I felt, because it was crazy, but it was fun. Yeah. Honestly, like doing those videos, it's like, it's cool to look back on at your growth, because like from the first video you put out there to the video we have now, you can tell like an insane amount of difference to like the editing, the way we hold ourselves on camera and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And I think that's another thing that like, for anybody who follows you from the beginning to now, they're like, wow, like you guys grew so much, And I think that's such a fun thing to have, because like it's just kind of like this memory book that you can just look back on and we're like, oh my God, I forgot we did this video, or we did this prank, or like things like that. It's really fun.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about it too, is that being able to do this gives us the way to immortalize ourselves.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that once you put something on the internet, it's there forever, right?
Yeah.
So like, to be able to create something to immortalize yourself is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And it is. It's like how you were saying, Liz. It's like a internet photo book.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
you're
flipping through the pages and you're like, oh yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I remember, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
Like
it's fun, yeah.
So for all y'all that didn't know, Liz's dad is the famous Joey Bravo. And we actually did a TV show back in the day called Lowrider Vision, and it would air on the public channel out here. And I found some of the DVDs and stuff and oh my gosh, I was like, that doesn't even look like him. He looks so young. He's all thin and like freaking all done up. And I was like, dude, what happened to you, bro? I remember you used to look like that. Yeah. You look so different now.
So different.
But yeah, it's cool to be able to do that. But now you guys have kind of like separated that part of your YouTube channel or that way to entertain to another one called Scaredy Cats, and that's why this episode's called 12 Scaredy Cats, because these guys' newest venture is called Scaredy Cats, and I want you guys just to go ahead and
so honestly, like, we kind of just started it out of the blue. And like, because like my sister, from Sipping Tea and Joy Marie, so we had seen like they'd done podcasting, and I'm like, wow, that just seems like so different from what we do. We're like, let's just try it, because we enjoy talking about scary stuff, even just looking, like, watching scary movies, learning about all that. Like, even though I'm scared, I love it, because like that's the feeling that I like, that adrenaline rush, so we're like, maybe like we'll create a podcast and it'll be about, scary things like conspiracies, all this, that whole genre. And we just did it. And then like with our name, it just fell into place so like, easily, because we're like, we're a bunch of scaredy cats. I love cats too, so that was another thing. I'm like, scaredy cats, that'll be perfect. But and then we just started it in August of last year. So honestly, like, we've grown so much from it, and we've learned a lot. And like, it's just kind of like a different world from what we're used to, but it's pretty cool because we kind of get to dive into like that, everything about podcasting and also creating. So it's like, it's really fun. And then we kind of just get to learn a lot of backstories. Like, we did an episode with Bloody Mary, and there was so much that I didn't even know about this lady. And I'm like, wow, like, it's crazy to see like all these scary stories that you were told as a child, or these things you did, like actual story behind it. And it's like, it just blows my mind, because I'm like, whoa,
like it's not like just a legend thing. There was like real stuff behind it.
So it's crazy. But
and I think what made it, like, just, we do love like the concept of like true crime. Like, we're always like just talking like our little conspiracy theories that we have on certain things. But like, our audience with the Sway and Liz, they love like our scary videos. Like, they'll watch every single video, but when it comes to the scary videos, that's the one that gets the most views, the most watch time. So that gave us kind of like the idea of like, our audience already loves that scary stuff. And we can talk about it. We love watching scary movies, and it's easy for us to like, we give reviews on scary movies too, so it's easy for us to talk about that. And so we're like, why don't we just make it a scary podcast? It's going to be about true crime, but it's also going to be like about urban legends, ghost stories, scary stories, and just like stories that our followers like want us to talk about. So I think it was a easy like switch and like a topic that we can pick, but the transition was hard because we were doing YouTube for like we're still doing YouTube, but we were doing it for 3 years. And to switch into like podcasting, like, we're very visual, so it like took me probably like a good month to like learn how to like switch from the camera to a mic.
That's what I was going to ask next, is like, do you find that now that since you're not having to spend the time on the visuals, that you have more time maybe to dedicate to something else with the podcast? Is that something that, I mean, do you find it like it's easier, or is it harder? Or
personally for me, like, it's a little bit easier, because like this is just already stories that are out there, rather than us trying to make up, like a video or an idea and stuff like that. That's just stuff that's already put out there, and we just kind of like paraphrase it or kind of tell it in our own way, So it's like we're constantly doing that, and just like doing all these stories. It's honestly, personally for me, it's a little bit easier, but for a little bit, it was like in the beginning, it was weird, because like we still do scripts, because we just have a hard time just kind of like off the head sometimes, especially about these stories that, kind of like history kind of deal, so like you have to make sure you get the facts.
And it's sort of like for Odd Podcast, like, since we do script, because it's kind of like storytelling. So like, if, like she said, if we get like a fact wrong, then people get mad.
Point it out.
That's not what happened.
Since we do put it on TikTok, we like, people will like call you out like, no, that's not, you got the timing wrong or the year wrong. So we kind of had to like put the script, because it's a storytelling. But we are thinking about like dropping episodes. We want to do like 2 times a week, because a lot of people want to hear us 2 times a week. And like that Friday episode probably will be like a freestyle. Maybe just like kind of like put like little topics we can talk about. But it's been pretty fun so far.
And
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
And then especially like towards the ending, like when we end the podcast episode, he'd always end it the way we kind of end our YouTube videos. So I'm like, he's like, and that'll be the end of today's video, guys. And we're like, oh my God, we got to redo that again. So like, it was like the beginning and the ending was a little bit hard, but now we kind of like, got the separate, like, okay, YouTube, this is how we end it, and podcast, this is how we end it. So yeah, that was one of the hardest things too.
That transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is too, to find a kind of those signature things, like you guys can still like tie into your podcast with your YouTube videos, just with your signatures, like how you guys introduce yourself and stuff like that. With that too, the more you guys are getting deeper into this, like everybody, you guys' numbers are pretty amazing, they're outstanding, and I love to see that.
Thank you.
But one thing that always comes with that, and I know too, because with the 12 rounds, we're just we're still in the beginning stage of 12. We're just finishing up our first season, but I've already kind of experienced a little bit of it, and just how you deal with people that will like send like little hater comments or whatever, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Has that happened to you guys, and how have you dealt with that?
Honestly, like with Scaredy Cats, not often. Yeah. Well, like, okay, we did do one that was based on Natalie Burnett, I believe her name was. That one, it was
true story of the the orphan movies,
the
orphans.
So it was actually based on another girl, but the way we had understood it in the beginning, we thought it was like strictly based on her.
Yeah,
so
it was like loosely based on both of the real ladies.
So I know with that one, we got a lot of hate because we didn't get the actual story of the orphan, and we said it was based on this girl like completely. So everybody was like pretty mad, and like even on our like the TikTok is where it was like everybody was kind of hating on it, and we're like, what, it is what it is. We already put the video out there, it's all good, but like even with those hate comments, I don't think people realize that the more they comment, the more it boosts your post. So like you're just kind of like, hey, I mean, you can argue with me all you want, but you're boosting my post, so it's like we're winning in the end of this, and like like we did correct ourselves after, because we're like, oh yeah, like we were wrong and we apologize for that, but people were just getting so mad. I'm like, wow, like you're this mad over something so simple. But like, and we honestly didn't get bothered, because like even like with YouTube, we've had a few like people kind of reach out to us personally, like saying a few things to us, and at the end of it, like in the beginning it did used to bother us, but at the end of it we kind of like trained ourselves, like with social media in general, it's a hard gig, especially if you're a creator, you're putting yourself out there for people, and anybody can kind of just tell you anything. But you also have to train yourself mentally to be ready for that. And this is like all a part of that journey. And you just have to kind of like train yourself to be mentally strong, especially with that. Because, like people on social media can be very, very mean. And it's a big thing. So like, especially with our content, we strive to make sure it's always positive. And like even with your podcast, I mean, like it's so positive and inspiring, and like I think it's something that social media definitely needs, especially podcasting, And I feel like a lot of people are going into podcasting right now, especially a lot of younger people. They're looking for certain things to hear, and I think that, having that positivity is a good thing for people to put out there, especially like with social media. Because like I said, people can be mean, but we kind of learn from it, and we're just kind of like on the other side, we're laughing about it, and I'm sure they're thinking, oh, like this is gonna get them down, but we're just kind of like, it is what it is. But you're commenting, so it's good for us either way.
It's funny is that you say that even the negative posts help boost your views and stuff. It's funny because like when I see a video or whatever, then I'm like, nah, man, like why are people liking this video? Why does it have so many views or whatever? The first thing I do, I don't try to comment anything negative on anybody, but I'll go and see if other people think like me. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a girl out there, and I won't get too much into it, but her gig is that, she plays music. Well, like one of the biggest posts she did or whatever, she basically jacked, right? Oh. And like it was already a song before. Yeah. And people are like, oh, you're so amazing, you're so talented, and like millions of views, right? And millions of likes, and just like blown up. And I'm like, what? Like, how can you? And then, well, first of all, I went to see if she said, no, guys, this is actually from this, and I got this idea from this, and gave the credit, but she didn't, right? Oh, man, and then I was like, I wonder if anybody else is thinking like me. So I went in, and there's jingles of comments. Oh, you jacked this and you jacked that, but no one paid attention to it. So I can see how that is a real statement. Where people who go in and
do those things.
with the negative comments too, like what we saw is that, so it starts off with like people like hating. Yeah. And then since that video gets pushed out to more people, there's some people who don't know about the story. So then it'll be like those positive comments like, oh, I didn't know that, or that's scary. Yeah. But it's like those hate comments are what pushes that video to even go viral. And even with that orphan video, it was like a 6-part, I think. There was like 6 parts to that video. And I think all of them are over, close to like that 1 million mark. Yeah. Views on TikTok, and it's because people started hating at first, and then it like pushes a video out to people who have no clue about that story. So then they'll go and listen to the podcast, and it honestly it helped out too to like grow the podcast at the beginning, because it was one of like the first 5 episodes that came out, and then it like started getting our podcast traction, and then people just started tuning in after that.
Yeah, so it's honestly like, I think that people feel like, like.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's a helicopter.
Oh,
yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, we started talking about this, and all of a sudden there's like some weird noise. I was like, what's going on? I don't know if you guys heard that.
Creepy.
I got scared because I looked at your face, and I was like, are you good? I was like,
hold on, guys. There was a helicopter. There was a helicopter going on. That was weird, though. Just weird timing.
Yeah. No, but yeah, honestly, like, hate comments are hate comments at the end of the day, but it's all good.
We did, like, on the Sway and Liz, when we were posting a video on Instagram, it was crazy. There we had like, this is the one like story that this hater went like too far. He went from commenting on a video to like following our personal pages and messaging us and like cussing us out,
and then found
saying
his
that we're
brother.
cringy.
Yeah.
And somehow, like, my brother has a different last name from me.
Yeah.
Somehow he ended up finding my little brother, and he started messaging my brother, telling him stuff about me and like cussing me out. And I was just like, why? And it was just, he got mad over a video saying that we were cringy and that he didn't like it. And I'm like, if you don't like it, just swipe to the next video. Like, you don't have to like it.
Yeah, there's nothing that says that once you press play, you have to finish. You know what I'm saying?
But it like triggered him that much that he went on all of our social medias and started like messaging us, like spam messaging us. It was crazy.
It was funny though. I was like, oh, it is what it is.
Like, he got so triggered.
You think about like how much time that's got to take. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Like, you could do so much more with your time. You know what I mean? Like
sometimes I'm just like, you can easily scroll to the next video if you don't like it.
That's for real, dude. So the two that stick the freshest in my mind from both the Sway and Liz YouTube and then the podcast are your guys' scariest Ring doorbell ones.
Yeah, the Ring camera ones. Yeah.
Yeah, those ones are so trip, and
they're scary.
Man, I can't remember what it was. I was trying to remember the one because I wanted to talk to you guys about it. Jeez, I can't remember now, but it'll come back. And then the next one is because my sister is huge. I have one older sister and one younger sister, right? My older sister is huge into like scary movies and then guess what she's also into? Dolls, like old dolls, like porcelain dolls and all that stuff. So like she has like a grip of these kind of like old school dolls and stuff like that. And one of her favorite flicks is the Annabelle one.
Man.
And to me, like I was like, it's just another movie or whatever. So when I heard the podcast about all the backstory about Annabelle, I was tripping. Right? I didn't listen to it all. I didn't finish listening to it all. No, I looked.
Even on the episode, we said how those kind of dolls, like old school dolls, just give me the creeps. Like it gives me goosebumps too, just talking about it. Like it just seems like they're looking at you, like they're just like their eyes are like locked into you, no matter like where you move. It just seems like they're just watching you at all times.
Well, even with that episode, like I think there was a part where we said that like the doll ended up from her room next to her to the kitchen sitting on, and that's a kind of like a big doll, one of those, I can't remember, what are they called?
Like the Raggedy Anns?
Yeah, the Raggedy Ann doll. So just when I learned about that part, I was like, I kind of just like, even when we were saying, I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I feel a little weird right now because it's kind of creeped me out. But I'm like, Jesus, like, oh man, yeah. Okay,
so check it out. So check it out. I remembered what it was, which one it was now. Okay, so and you guys were like, oh, I don't think it's real because I think it's fake, it's made up, right? And I was like, at first I was with you guys, right? But I think you guys played it again, and it was the one where all you could hear was that "Let me in." Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so check this out. So there's a lot of things associated with the supernatural and spirits and stuff. And one of those things is orbs.
Yeah.
And if you go back and watch that video again, you'll see an orb go right across the
camera.
The camera.
Oh
look,
my God.
Look,
oh
it's
my
getting another Marcus
God.
buzz, dude.
I felt that.
So now that's at first I was like, yeah, I think so too. And then, but I think you guys played it again or something, or maybe I cut it the first time. But I wanted to talk to you guys about that because I was like, oh, I wonder if they know about orbs.
Yeah.
Orbs.
Because like they're usually in videos that people that catch supernatural stuff in. But you'll if you go back and watch it again, you'll see the orb.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
You can go through the ring camera, dude. And it's just funny because outside, you're not normally going to see like little pieces of lint flying around or nothing, not really outside, right? Or even if it's dust, like it's not going to
be like.
It's not going to go. It's not going to go. If it's outside, it's going to go and it's going to go fast. You know what I'm saying? So from the wind and everything. But so I wanted to bring that up. But yeah, the Annabelle thing, I just went, this is straight ADD right now, but the Annabelle thing, it tripped me out. And the fact that you guys were talking about the origins of Raggedy Ann and Andy, because in my days, like those dolls were big. Like the cartoon, I mean, there was everything, stickers, like lunch boxes, like they were big, you know what I mean? Raggedy Ann and Andy. But crazy stuff.
Those dolls are so creepy.
So this is called 12 Scaredy Cats. So this is kind of a split episode where now I'm going to kind of hand it off to you guys, and you guys are going to go ahead and take control and do all the
scary talk and everything.
Scary
yeah.
talk.
No, so actually we've talked about this story quite a bit on like our YouTube, on TikToks and stuff, and I think we actually just recently told our followers like about the Elizabeth's house, and we're like, you know what, we need to do a collab with 12 rounds, and we need to get him on and like let us know what he saw that day and this and that. So like I'll just start off with mine. So like I remember waking up to like this weird thing over me, and like he had red hair and a trench coat, and I was just like freaking out. And my sister was next to me, and I remember like waking her up and like doing all this stuff. And then like even with my mom, she had felt some crazy stuff in the house, and I think she was pregnant with my little brother Kiko at the time, I believe. And she said one night she felt like she was getting suffocated, like somebody was sitting on her or holding her down. Like I don't even know. Like it was just a lot of creepy stuff. Felt off in that house for a little bit. And then when my dad, we kept like, and he says he doesn't remember this, but all of us kind of remember it clearly, that he didn't believe us. We're like, like sleep downstairs then, like, and we'll prove it to you. So he ended up sleeping downstairs, and he woke up with the black eye and something punched him. Yeah. So like, and it's so funny because me, my sister, and my mom, like we all remember it, but my dad's like, I don't remember that like at all. Like, and I remember it clearly.
Nobody punching me.
Yeah, I know.
I remember when you told him, and he's like, maybe the ghost punched me that hard that like
knocked it out, knocked the same side of him.
Yeah, but like this house was like so weird, and like I know when we moved out, that one, it was like a concrete room, I think, across from the laundry. I don't know if you remember how it was set up, but it was like just one of those little pool lights in the center of the room. But in that same room, there ended up being like a little hidden door, like a flip door kind of deal. And like the people who were going to end up renting the house after us did a walkthrough, and that guy ended up finding the door. So that was really weird, because we're like, how long was that there? Like, we didn't even know that was there to begin with. So I'm like, did the landlord like not think about telling us, or did he even know that was there? It was kind of weird. But like, I know you stayed in the house, so like, do you kind of remember anything that had happened that night? Okay. I
do. I remember that one back room, and for some reason we didn't sleep back there. I can't remember why we didn't sleep back there or nothing, but we slept in the area when you know how you first come down the stairs. It was the door, and then you would come down the stairs, and then there was like a just like a main area, right? Yeah. And that's the area where we're staying or whatever. And I remember that other back room with, and it had the windows, like the little windows or whatever. So the first couple of nights, because we stayed there for probably about 3 weeks before we decided not to stay there anymore.
Oh man.
So like the first week or whatever, because we were actually working in Twin Falls, my brother and I, we did Architectural Meadow, and the company that would send us out there, they would give us like a per diem, so we could get a hotel or whatever. But if we could get a cheap hotel or whatever, so we just decided, we just stay with you guys and just kick down for food or whatever, and just stayed there. Well, yeah. So nothing happened like the first week, and then the second week, my brother was like, kept on saying like that your mom was checking in on us or something, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I remember getting woken up a few times from like the door opening up upstairs too, and I was like, oh yeah, I heard her too, whatever. And then like on the third week, it started to get more intense, like from that Monday to that Friday.
Hey, I'm getting goosebumps.
Like,
I know.
yeah,
I'm all getting
just
scared.
it went fast, like it escalated fast. So we started hearing the door open more frequently, and I started hearing it too. But like, what's that?
Yeah.
I know. I'm
Yeah,
getting
I'm
scared.
getting
I
goosebumps.
feel it in my chest.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing something come all the way downstairs, and I really thought it was your mom, because we're downstairs, and it's just like, for Mexicans, Chicanos, or whatever, it's just common for to
Yeah.
check on, make sure everybody's all good,
Yeah.
or whatever. So I remember getting up the next day just feeling like something weird, had happened, and my brother was like, "Dude, did you see that last night?" Because he's the one that saw it, and something had came down the stairs and was standing like right there, just looking at us. And so anyways, I was like, dude, I don't want to stay there no more. He's like, I don't want to stay there no more either, dude. That's a trip, dude. He's like, the whole time. And so we never asked your mom before that about, checking in on us. And so that night or that next day or whatever, when we decided to, say everything out loud, your mom was like, no, I never got up at all and checked on you guys.
Oh my god.
So that whole time there was something opening the door and like closing it and freaking like watching us the whole time. Yeah, but I didn't see it, but my brother just said it was something black, like it was just there.
That is crazy. Yeah, because like I remember it clearly, and it was like this tall figure with the black trench coat, and he had like long red hair, but his face, like I can't even explain what his face looked like. Like it's almost like I can't even remember if he even had a face. Like that's how weird it was. But like I always tell him this story, and I'm like, yeah, like they stayed here, and like I know something happened, but I'm like, I don't know. And like that house, it weirds me out because I'm like, was something there, or was like that hidden door was in there? Like I don't even know. Like
like once it got open and then like released it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's pretty creepy. My heart's racing. I already feel it.
Yeah, well, because before that, like I stayed there many times before that, before and like I never remember anything before that, but it was just when we came to stay on that, period of time that we experienced that weird stuff. Well, maybe it just only happens in those two. I don't know, but like, I never experienced anything before that day, and I used to come over all the time. You guys remember?
No, that's crazy. Well, that kind of gives like answers my questions. Because I'm like, what happened that night? And I hope I wasn't tripping out, because I remember waking up Aaliyah, and I think my tia China was in the room too. And like, I was just like, like somebody was in here and someone was standing over me. So yeah, it was pretty creepy. But another question I have for you is like, what is one of the creepiest experiences you've had with either like the supernatural or just anything in that area?
Well, so we grew up in a haunted house, so like I've had a lot of experiences, and so it's hard for me to like zero in on one that really got me, but because I became so desensitized to it that I remember one time I was on the phone. I was like maybe like 16 or something. I was on the phone with a girl, right? Yeah. Like, what's up, girl? What's up? My little sister, she comes in. And she hugs me. She said, "Good night, brother." And she leaves the room. And we used to have these fickle, like heavy iron bunk beds, because it was us boys all in one room or whatever. So I mean, these things were like freaking like tanks. Like you couldn't. I mean,
Lift
you couldn't.
them?
Yeah, they were heavy, and then they had like these futon things on the bottom. Anyways, I was on the bottom one, and I was just like, all kicked back like that, and my sister left the room, and I looked back as she left, and the door hit the metal thing, and came back open. So I was like, hey, come back, close the door or whatever. And so she comes back, and I'm looking at the door, and she comes and closes the door, and I'm there on the phone again. All of a sudden, the whole freaking bed starts to move, like,
Heck no.
right? And I'm like, and I look back because I feel like some wind on my neck, and the door goes just open. And just like I said, I became desensitized to it. So at that time, I was like, yeah, my bed's shaking right now. My door just came over by itself. Anyways, and then it stopped, you know. But I would say one of the ones that probably sticks out the most is when whatever this thing was took my shadow.
What?
So at this time, I was like, I was about 17 or so. Because my cousin used to live right around the corner from where I was staying at this time. I would say 2 blocks. And at this time, it was my oldest daughter's mother. We were staying with her dad, and they had a dog named Chief. He would follow me everywhere, right? We were homies, and so I was gonna walk to my cousin's because I think I was gonna go get like a tape from him, or I can't remember. But I take off, and it's close enough to walk, so I'm just walking, and of course Chief is his name. The dog starts following me, and I get like 3/4 of the way there, and all of a sudden Chief just jams. He takes off fast, right? And I'm like, what the heck, you know? Because normally he backs me up, like he won't leave me, right?
Yeah.
But he left, and I came around the corner. So the street that I was on was like this, and then the street that I turned on where my cousin lived, it T's, right? So you can only go right or left, and at that T there's big street lights, right? So I turn left and I start walking, and I just feel weird, right? And the light is hitting me from my right side, and I see my shadow on my left side, right? Because it's really hard light. Yeah. And all of a sudden, for some reason, it just like, I look again, right? Like it just caught my attention, and my shadow was gone, and whatever was there was like this, and it had long fingers like this. What? And it wasn't even walking anymore. It was like, it was just going.
What the
heck? No.
My shadow was gone, dude.
Yeah.
And that was in place to my shadow, like its legs were connected to mine. Look at that. I jammed. I started running as fast as I could to my cousin's house, right? And where my cousin lived, his house and his garage were right next to each other, like this, parallel to each other. And then they had a gate on the front and on the back, so there was not like a lot of wind that would go through or anything like that. And I started pounding on the door. I was like, hoping for him to open it up, and nothing. And all of a sudden, they had wind chimes in there. They started going, dude. And I was pounding on the door, and nothing. I didn't know what else to do, so I jammed. I started running back to the house, right? And I got back to the house, and I tell my daughter's mom about it, and she's like, "Well, you tripping?" I was like, "No, I swear, right?" And I call my cousin. He answers the phone real quick, and I was like, "Dude, I was knocking on the door, man. I was knocking on the door." He was like, "It was open," and so his room is right next to the door. He didn't hear nothing, dude.
What the heck?
He didn't hear nothing. The door was locked because I tried it too, and because that's my tia's house, like.
Wow.
And he said the door was unlocked and everything, but to me it was locked.
So it was like holding it, huh?
Something was going on. Something was going on, and he didn't hear anything. And he's like, "I just was watching TV." Like.
How did you feel like after though? Like, were you even able to sleep? I wouldn't have slept that night.
Well, so this was after, this was more, after being in the house that we grew up in for so long. So like, it tripped me out that same night or whatever, but like. The next day I was good or whatever.
Really good.
I tell that story often, and it still gets me, but like then it just kind of gets kicked back to the.
And like, do you ever feel though like anything had followed you since that house or no? Like,
no, I never think about that. Like, so I know that's possible, but like I don't know if it's like because once you're tuned in, I guess you're tuned in. Like you're more susceptible to it or whatever. So I never tune in that much. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of like disconnect yourself a little bit. Okay.
Like I throw it to the wayside like right afterwards. So I never attach myself to it. So I feel like it can attach itself to me too. But I mean, there's always, there's always like, you know, spirits around everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
well, like it's so weird to think about that kind of world because like we always say it, like we could literally be walking and something could be around us,
Yeah.
and like like cross surfing is always something good, but like like it's one of those things that like it's so like the unknown, especially with spirits, it's like so complex and it's so like I don't understand it, like it's crazy to me that like these things can happen and these things are real, especially like you said, like if you kind of like connect yourself to it, but like if you disconnect yourself to it, it happens a little less,
Yeah.
There's ones too that like you don't want to stop.
Yeah.
So like when my little brother passed away, like I would see him, and I know that sounds weird. Like you're like, you see him. Like I would literally see him in, like I would be standing in the kitchen, and then like I would see him like standing off to the side, like just chilling with me. You know what I mean? And like those times, I didn't want it to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wanted to hold on to that for some reason, and even though that I know it's not good, because like they're saying like even if a spirit is doing that, then they're not resting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like it would be what do you call it? Selfish of me to want that to not stop. But it's so there's there's the goods and the bads about that whole thing, and there's just mischievous ones. You know what I'm saying? But
when it comes to like ghost stories like that, when we've done it, I've always told her how it trips me out how animals just sense that like right off the bat and they just dip. Like the dog, like you said, would always like follow you around no matter what, and it just leaves.
Yeah.
When that happens, like it's crazy, and it's sometimes scary because like I have a cat and she has a cat, and sometimes when we're like telling these stories, they start acting like a little bit weird, and
I
we're
don't
like
it. I'm like, don't do that.
They see things that we don't, and it's just always like it's always tripped me out that animals can sense
like,
that.
What are you
energy.
looking at?
Yeah.
Why are you acting like that?
Yeah.
Especially her cat sometimes. Like he
He'll
likes
get
to
the
like
crazy
attack me,
eyes.
but sometimes he'll just like sit there and like get these big old like hunting eyes, and you like flare up at like random stuff.
And
So
I'm
just like
you need to chill out.
Yeah,
I'm like,
he
I don't
scares
want
me.
that.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that right now. Like, even when he does that, I shut the door on him because I'm like, I'm not doing that right now. Like, I can't. But
like he'll start hopping sideways and he'll be all poofed up and looks all scary.
Crazy.
And yeah, he's just he's an interesting little cat.
he is.
What about you guys? Have you guys experienced anything firsthand?
With me, probably that. Other than that, like, I don't think I can really think of much because, like, thank the Lord that was the only thing. But I think after that, like, no, I think it was pretty good after. I mean, even like in the house that I'm living in, like right now, like I've always felt like good vibes. Like there's never been a time where I freaked out, but now like ever since then, I can't sleep in the dark. Like I have to sleep with the flashlight on. I have to have some kind of light, or else I just like panic. And sometimes he'll do it to me to make like to mess with me, but when we're going to lay down, he'll turn off all the lights and just stand there in the dark, and I'm like, no, I need a light on. Like, turn on the light, and I start freaking out. But no, like it's ever since then, like I can't do the dark. And like I've even had like one story, like when I was with Aaliyah and like one of our good friends, Alicia, they locked us outside of the house, like her brother and his friend, like to mess with us, and we were in the dark, and I'm like, oh my god, like I was freaking out, crying, like banging on the door, like open the door. So like ever since then, I can't do the dark. I'm like, it's not my friend.
And when we first got together, like a little bit afterwards, when we started like getting more comfortable in the relationship, I would be like, why are you scared of the dark? Like we would lay down to like watch a show or something, and she'd grab her phone and turn on the flashlight and leave it on the side, and I'm like, why are you scared of the dark? So then I would turn off the light, like she said, and I would like just stand there, and then I'd just like say like something creepy, or I'd start like running towards her. And after a while, she told me like what happened at the house, and I'm like, okay, I thought you were just like messing around, like you just
you're like okay, I'll stop.
No, that's true. I'm like that I would, if I were to like be in that position that she was in, I would like sleep with the lights on. Like I don't care. But for me, like a scary like instance that happened to me, it was recent, and I did say it on our TikTok, and it went viral too. Literally like a few days ago. Yeah. It was about the Llorona. So it was when we were doing the Llorona episode, and I usually have like stay up late, probably to like 2 or 3 when I want to like just push out all this content so I don't have to do it tomorrow and like schedule it. And so this is like before I was doing all my research. And it was at our old house, and that old house like it was just weird vibes. Like, it was so creepy. The basement, like, when you go down, the stairs weren't even like put correctly, and behind it was just like an empty like cement room. Like, it was like a tiny little square, but right behind the stairs, it was an empty cement room, and you couldn't go in there. But I always get like weird vibes from that. Yeah. And just that house overall, it was just like you can hear things at night when my parents were just asleep, and you can hear like people like talking. It sounded like somebody was just having a conversation in the living room, and it just tripped me out. But during this time, it was like around 10, and I was doing the script for the Llorona, getting like information, and I was listening to like a video on my AirPods, and then I was like typing it out, and my brother was like right here on his bed, like right next to me, like I think he was like dozing off into sleep, but then he woke up and he was watching YouTube. And I have a window, and I leave it like cracked open a little bit, and just as I was finishing, it was like getting later and later, and I still haven't like showered and stuff like that, and he ends up like getting up, and he's like, "Do you hear that?" And I'm like, "What?" So I take off my AirPods, and you can hear like it sounded like the walls were like vibrating, because it's like a really like old house, and the walls were thin. So the walls were like vibrating, and it sounded like somebody was knocking in the back. And I'm like, "Where did you hear anybody like come through the back?" Because it was like a little fence, and it has a door that like creaks when it opens. And then since it has the porch, it like creaks a lot too. And then my dogs were back there, and behind that is an alley, and then the landlord's like garage. So it's like a pretty big like gap. If somebody were to come in, you hear the gate opening, and I've heard people like the landlord come in before when he needs to get something, and like you can clearly hear like that door squeaks all the time. And so I went to go tell my dad, I'm like, "There's somebody knocking in the back, like I don't think it's gonna be the landlord. If it is him, and if our neighbors, like we know our neighbors, they're like older people, they like come and knock at the front door. But I mean, it's late at night, almost 12. Like, I don't think it's not gonna be them." So we end up turning off all the lights, and I'm like peeking through the window, but you can't see like that far, because it was like far away from where my window was at. And as we're getting closer, you can hear like the door like bang really hard, and it's like this big wooden door, so like you can hear the echoes. And it's in the bathroom, and like all the way in the back of the house is that bathroom that leads to the backyard. And as we were getting closer, like we were just getting like creepy vibes, and my dad's like, "Nah, like who is this person?" So he's like, so he rushes into the bathroom, and right when it would like do like sequences of 3, so it'd go like 1 2 3, then stop, and then 1 2 3 and stop. But as we were getting closer into the bathroom, it was like violent knocks. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was like literally, like, it gives me goosebumps just talking about it. Like, makes my heart race, because right when it was like on the second knock, my dad opens the door and swings it, and there was nobody out there. But my dog that was like right next to it, he was like flared up. You know how dogs get when like he was like flared up, and he was showing his teeth, and he was growling. But right when we opened it, there was nobody there. Like, I'm like, if it was a person, I don't think they would be able to run off that fast. And we ran out like right away with our flashlights looking to see who it was. And there was nobody there, but our dog was like, he was like bugging out. Like, he looked mad. And ever since that like night, like it's just always creeped me out, because I'm like, that like it was for real. Like, if like I felt like with me doing the Llorona and stuff like that, like obviously it's from Mexico, but like the like just like that energy like that of like spirits and stuff like that, I feel like I was like kind of inviting something, or like it was just creepy. But it's kind of like the same thing. Like, it's scary to hear like your story when you said the door would open, and then you think like somebody was checking in on you. Like, that was just so weird. Like, somebody was knocking on our door, and I open it, and my dad opens it, and there's nothing there.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah,
and then just how the dog was like reacting too. Like, that's another thing, man. Like, how do you explain that? You know?
Exactly.
And I remember you were talking about on one of your pods about just crazy stuff happened at your house, just all around, just period. Like that one guy that was like going from house to house.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So like, that's just weird. But now it's like, manifested into like another form of weird stuff that's going on.
That house too, like because they don't live in that house anymore. But I know when I'd come over and he'd tell me these stories before, I'm like, man, I'm like kind of scared of being here. And like even like their basement into that like they had it blocked off too, because like a bunch of weird stuff would always happen since they had the house. So like it would creep me out. And like he said, like it's like that room, and then you go into the bathroom, and right across from it is like the door to the basement. So every time I go to the bathroom back there, I'd be like, oh my god, like cross my fingers nothing happens, because I was so scared. But
when we first moved into that house, like my parents would sleep in that room where the bathroom and the basement were at, and my dad and my mom ended up moving their beds and all that to the other room, like where far away from the basement, because like at night when I was really young and my brother was really young too, you can hear like something coming up from the basement, like the steps would start creaking, and then the door would open, and it's like first we thought it was the wind, so then my dad would like make sure that it was closed and all that stuff, and then they would be sleeping, and then you hear like doom doom doom, and then the door would open. So then my dad and my mom ended up moving to the other room, and like he put like a chair like on it so it doesn't open at all. So like the basement just overall was like weird vibes, but you know, like you living in a like a haunted house, like you say, you know, that like dark, like heavy energy that you feel like when you walk into a house like that. That's how it felt like all the time. And there was one time where I had like sleep paralysis. I don't know if you've had that before, but at that house, like I had sleep paralysis, and when I woke up, like it just like it was tripping me out because I couldn't like scream, I couldn't move, and my brother was right next to me, and I was trying to like call out for his name, and I couldn't. And I remember seeing like, because it was right here was our kitchen, and I was like laying down, and like the kitchen light would like hit me. So I remember not being able to move, and then the light just starts getting dim, and it seems like something was like walking into the room, like a black like kind of like mist was walking into my room and sits at the corner of my bed. And like I was like freaking out, because then you can see like some like white glowing eyes, and it's like it was getting closer to me, and like I couldn't move. And then out of nowhere, I ended up snapping out of it, and then everything just goes back to normal.
Isn't that so weird?
And it was weird, like, because then I ended up having it again, but I had my back turned this time. And I remember hearing whispers on my ear, and I was like trying to move, and like I was getting like just scared, because I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like my body is just like frozen. And I can hear, like that time I had my back turned, I can hear like whispering and like something like touching my ear, and it just tripped me out, because like once you snap out of it, everything goes back to normal. And it's like, what happens? Like, is it like, it's just weird. Like, is it like a different dimension or something?
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
Realm, or it's
the one
weird.
The only one time that I actually felt something like, because it's happened to me multiple times. Yeah. But I remember one time, my youngest daughter's mother and I had a place just right off campus at BSU, and she didn't tell me about her experience until after I told her about mine. But same thing, I was experiencing sleep paralysis, and like I've had it happen to me before, and usually what stops it for me is I start laughing, and then boom, I'm back,
snap out of it.
And but this time, like all I could do was like fall onto the ground, and like I was trying to yell. So I was on my hands and knees, freaking trying to yell, and she was like, my daughter's mom was lying right next to me, right? But before I went down to the ground, what caused me to even go down to the ground is I felt, same thing like you. I felt it behind me. Yeah. And then I heard just in my ear,
oh my gosh.
Like that. And whatever it was had long fingernails poking me in the back of the neck. And that's why I tried to move. And when I went to the ground, I was trying. What's even funnier about this is now that I think about it, like imagine you wake up, you wake up and you see like your partner on the ground going, you're like, what the hell's the matter with you, bro? But that's what I felt. Like I couldn't, like I was like,
And it's like kind of frustrating because you can't say anything.
Yeah. You can't move, and like no matter how hard you're trying, you're like,
like trying to break out of it. Yeah.
I remember one time when it happened to me, it was in the middle of the day, and I was taking a nap. I had got home from work, and my dog used to come and chill with me all the time. As soon as I get home from work, real quick, it was always like, he had a routine where he would come and cuddle with me and stuff when I'd get home from work. But so he knew he couldn't ever get on the bed, so he would just chill right there on the ground. And then I closed the door, and just like I said, it was the middle of the day, and it happened. And I heard somebody knocking on the door, and I was gonna get up and say something or whatever, and I couldn't move, and I knew that, it was sleep paralysis again. And then I heard my dog growling, and he was a big boy, what I'm saying? So his growls weren't small, and I could hear him. He was mad, dude. And I couldn't look around. I couldn't do nothing.
Wow.
And then when I opened my eyes, I thought, that's crazy that in the middle of the day. Yeah. Because people usually associate things, with the nighttime or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, I got so many stories about stuff like that. But yeah, it could be like a 6-hour.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to have you on our Scaredy Cast podcast. Yeah, I think they definitely love those. We've told a couple of our personal ones, but I don't think they're nearly as crazy as yours. That's scary.
We'll have to do a part 2. Yeah. But, before we close anything off, we wanted to ask you, what inspired the 12-round podcast, or what have you like jumping into the podcast world?
So it's been a wild ride for me because, like I've said, I've always said it in short too, because I really, I don't want to give it that much energy, you know what I'm saying, to say that it's really not my, what do you call it? I'm out of my element, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not really anything that anybody would ever imagine me doing, you know what I'm saying? Being like a talk show host, or, you know what I'm saying, a podcast host, because that's never been my deal. And old friend's mom watches it, and she was like, oh, you've always been good, because, doing music, I've performed in front of thousands and thousands of people before. And I thought, that's crazy that you would think that I would feel more comfortable in this kind of arena, but I'm not, you know what I'm saying? And I think because with the music, the difference between doing this and when I did music, I entered a whole nother persona. I was a character, you know what I'm saying? So whenever I was on stage, I was like, I could be somebody else. Yeah. I could act like somebody else. I didn't really have to take responsibility for any of the ways that I act. I never acted a fool, but I could act a fool. You know what I'm saying? If I wanted to, I never really had to take responsibility because I was a character, you know what I'm saying? But with podcasting, I learned that, it's the real me, and learning that vulnerability, and especially with 12 rounds, we have to talk about things that will make us uncomfortable, because those are the things that, are our struggle. Yeah. And, and so I guess with the biggest thing, and one of the biggest things that I learned is vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And then also, being accountable, for the things in our life, and the things that we can change. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I can't say thanks enough to anybody that's, and everybody that's been tuning in from all across the globe now, which is super awesome. You guys know, when it first happened, you're like, whoa, people from, because I think Mexico just joined the crew who are now listening out there, and Brazil and Germany, and all those guys. So much love, especially for everybody here in our home states. Much love for everybody giving us all the the support and stuff like that. But it's definitely been a wild one, man.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, because at first, you have that mentality, I don't know if people would tune in, Yeah. I don't know if people would really, is this actually worth it? And then once you start getting that traction, and you see that people from places that are far away from us are tuning in, and they enjoy it, that's something crazy. When especially when it happens, it's something that's cool. People from the UK, Canada, like you said, Brazil and Mexico are tuning in, listening to my podcast, and it's a cool feeling. Yeah.
I always say even when I was doing music, I always say you can listen to anything, to any song, or to any artist or whatever, right? And if you listen long enough, you can always find that one thing or that one song from that person that you'll like, or a phrase that you can take away from somebody. And I always feel if I can provide that, for somebody at any point in time in the podcast or whatever, if I can provide a saying or some piece of advice that they could take away and it'll help them, then I feel like I'm doing my job, because really this is not for me, and I think that's why it's easier for me to put myself in this place, that's uncomfortable for me, is because I'm a person that likes to help people. So like, to think of it that way makes it easier for me to do it,
Yeah. And I think that's like cool that I love about your guys' podcast, that like motivation, like motivating, like having like guests come in and then like saying how they get started into like whatever profession they're in, and just hearing that like somebody tuning in that wants to be like, say like a creator or wants to be a podcaster, and like hearing that like motivational talk or how they got into it might be like that spark that motivates them to do what they want to do in life and like find their purpose, So I think that's really cool and I enjoy about your guys' podcast, like having people come in or just you guys, saying like motivational things. And I think it's just cool because that can spark anybody's like, idea.
Yeah, because it's all, we're all connected, you know what I'm saying? So like, we all go through the same things, even though we know it or not. So like, if somebody can listen to somebody's story and identify with that, and be like, whoa, that's what I feel. Or that's what happened to me. And then knowing that, whatever they want to do next is possible.
Yeah.
That's what's
like
cool.
Feeling like they're not alone with their experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is for people to identify with you, and knowing that, things are possible.
No, I agree 100%. I really like that. Honestly, I love your podcast all around. I think that it's pretty awesome. But another thing that I feel like people should always keep close to their hearts is, that vulnerability and relating to other people. Because like you said, we're all going through the same thing most of the time, and we might not show or may not know it. But it's like, I think you putting that out there for people and a way to connect. But also another thing is it's coming from a male's perspective, because I feel like in men, it's really hard to see them become vulnerable. You hear it more from females, so I think that from a male perspective, it's even 10 times more closer to the heart. That's how I see it.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because there is that stigma that goes along with being a male and being the tough guy or being macho or whatever, being the rock of the family or whatever. But I think what makes a person more solid and more of a pillar of his community and of his family or whatever is having that vulnerability.
And showing that emotion.
Because if you can't be whole, what I'm saying, how are you supposed to stay standing,
Exactly.
But yes, I appreciate you guys being here. Again, I throw out your handles so everybody knows how to find you.
So for our Sway and Liz side of things, you can find us at swayliz.yt. But for our like I like to say, our true crime side, you can find the Scaredy Cats podcast on all podcast platforms, and we're also on all social media, and you can find us at Scaredy Cats, and that's Scaredy Cats with the K.
Awesome. Okay. Heck yeah. This has been the 12 Rounds Podcast. Yo, till next time.